Hello, everybody. My name's Nick, and welcome to episode 7 of the pre-dental series. In this episode, I'm just going to be winging this one and talking off the cusp about the application and just my overall tips about the application and things you're going to want to do in the application before you click submit. So stick around till the end. There's going to be lots of great tips throughout the course of this video. So the first thing about the application is to be organized before inputting everything into the application. I would highly recommend making a Word document and Googling or even going into the portal and looking at what are the prompts in the application that I'm going to have to write a story under or give a good description under. For example, whether you have environmental factors like relatives and dentistry, start accumulating, where do your family members go to school? What years do they graduate? Because it's going to ask for that in the application. Other information such as your COVID-19 impact essay, I would include something in that. COVID affected millions of people worldwide, and some ripped apart families, some brought families together. This is your opportunity to talk about your experience during COVID-19. So whether you had an education interruption, whether that was for a religious mission or you took some time out of school, your manual dexterity essays. So these are all essays and prompts that you can begin working on before the application opens. That way these can become refined and become concise. And so all you have to do is copy and paste it into the application rather than scrambling the day it opens to get these written. Other things, for your experiences, I would highly recommend collecting your supervisor's information, their email, phone numbers, the title of events. Make sure you have your dates and hours squared away. So if you forgot, the days you were shadowing or the hours, reach out and figure out what those are and get those written down. For any of your old jobs, like I said, make sure you have your supervisor's information, relevant info or things that you would need. And that goes for shadowing too. You're going to want the address for the practice, the phone number, the name, and the experience descriptions. You can write those out before the application opens. And that's kind of the theme of this video is there's a lot you can do towards the application before the application officially opens. So get working on these essays sooner than later. If you haven't started or still working on your personal statement, I would prioritize that first before working on these other things. But if you are making good progress or already have finished with your personal statement, working on the other essays is a really great way to put yourself in a good position when the application opens. So that goes for research, volunteer, any of that. Anything that you've done, have the information ready for it. The next thing I want to talk about the application is when to apply, when to submit your application. The best advice I ever heard on when to submit your application is when you're ready. Don't feel like you have to submit the first day the application opens if your application isn't ready. It's better to wait until your application's ready and you're ready than to rush it and for it to be perceived as rushed by the schools and people on the admissions committee. So please work on trying not to rush yourself, making sure you're ready, having people reread your description essays, your personal statement, your impact essay, all these different things. Have people reread that. So, you may have overlooked a period here or some grammar there, little things. So get a second set of eyes on it and apply when you're ready. Next thing I want to talk about is the narrative behind your application. I mentioned it in a few of my other videos, but the narrative behind your application is really all someone knows about you. What I mean by that is everything someone on the admission committee can know about you and the mental picture someone gets of you as they read your application. When you submit your application, you are one of 1,000 people probably that applied to that school. So how is the narrative, how is the things that you're, and the way you're describing your experiences within your application, how is that helping or hurting that mental image being shaped in someone's mind of you? Because they haven't met you yet, right? And you're hoping that this application is good enough on paper that they will then invite you in for an interview so that they can meet you in person, right? So it's, the application's it provokes a lot of thought and a lot of self-reflection on, okay, what qualities do I want from myself to be reflected on my application, that they can hopefully pick up on that, and then that can be confirmed in the interview. So think about these things. Think about, what are your strengths? Are you an extrovert? Do you like to, are you very social, and helping others in social settings is something that is easy to you? That's awesome. That's a really great strength. Have that be a part of your narrative. Or what if you're an introvert who likes to really get and figure out the fine details of things to make sure things are done the right way and excellence is done the right way? That's super important, right? You can really emphasize that quality. So there's no right or wrong quality. There's no like good or bad quality. Just share your strengths because they're unique to you. And this is such a great opportunity to show what you have to offer. Besides that, on the application, be careful when you are selecting your school choice, or this number of schools and the schools that you are applying to. The schools you apply to should be based on the statistics and personality match that matches you the best. If you have a 3.5, for example, and you're applying to all schools that have like a 3.9 average, that would be considered like Ivy League or like upper echelon schools, that's probably not a good idea, right? You should look at the statistics published for each of the dental schools. This can be found on their websites or within the pre-dental handbook the one you can buy online. You know what I'm talking about. And look at the school averages. Find the GPA range that you fall into. Find the DAT range that you fall into. And then curate your school choice based on that. Do you have one target school, like your goal school, and then you can have, 3 or 4 or 5 schools that are kind of above your stats that you'd really want to go to if you got in. And then also, 4 or 5 schools that you fit right into that GPA average, right into that DAT average. And then some schools, 4 or 5 that you would be on the high end statistically. Having a mix of programs that you apply to, that way you're casting a large net, and statistically you have a good chance of landing somewhere, because becoming a dentist is your goal, and that's the whole point of applying, right? So be very deliberate with your school choice. You can do that. There's lots of like financial and GPA and DAT calculators out there online that you can look up, and you can figure out where that is for you. Other thing that I want to say about choosing your school choice is really think about, where would you want to live? Obviously, if someone were to say, oh, I only want to live by a beach, right? That's probably that you might have to open your horizons a little bit if you're applying to dental school, because you might not end up by a beach, and that's okay. So think about where you would be comfortable living, whether you have family, a marriage, a wife, a husband, kids. You could be uprooting your whole life here. So make sure it's somewhere you're comfortable with, somewhere you'd be willing to move, somewhere you're going to fit in and you're going to thrive. So as you're curating your school choice list with the average statistics, also think about those other outside factors. And the next thing that I want to mention is the cost of applying. It's a lot to apply. I applied to 14 schools, and after interviews, initial application fee, and secondary fees, it was probably around $5,000 for everything, maybe $6,000. That's a lot of money, and that was only for 14 schools. So really be mindful of, okay, does this school say on their website if they do an in-person interview or an interview over Zoom or Teams? Because maybe you can add that school if they're doing it over Teams, and that will cut down on your traveling budget for interviews, right? These are all things that you want to be cognizant of when you're applying. So Look at their websites. There's lots of great information, or reach out to this. Typically, you can find someone at the school that can give you some information, or current students, their D1s, can help you out and point you in the right direction for who you can talk to get more information. But think about where you'd want to live, where you want to take your family, because that's super important. Proximity to family is important. And don't feel too bad if you're joining into the getting into the application cycle around August. Some of my friends got in August or early September, and they had great success in the pool. So please don't feel like you have to wait a whole year if your application isn't in May 30th or June 1st, whatever the day it opens. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this video is good. It was off the cusp, so we'll see how it turns out. But like it, comment if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help with anything, and hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you.